August 2017. The National Cancer Institute publishes an article in which researchers observe the survival rates of cancer patients who use only forms of alternative medicine demonstrated to be no better than placebo as their sole treatment. The results? Women who used alternative medicine as initial treatment without conventional cancer treatment had more than a 5-fold increased risk of death. September 2017. Rachel Pyland of Lansing, Michigan is charged with involuntary manslaughter after her 3-day-old daughter Abigail dies following her mother's refusal to take her to a doctor. Upon results of the autopsy, medical examiner Dr. Patrick Hansma is quoted as having said, "If treated, most likely she would have been alive." What drove Pyland's neglect? Her belief in healing by faith alone, encouraged by her involvement in the divine healing preaching Faith Tech Ministries. When her midwife initially advised her to seek medical treatment for Abigail's jaundice, Pyland is quoted to have said, "God makes no mistakes." Reliance on treatments that do almost nothing is surprisingly easy to develop and can be deadly. A key reason why people continually use alternative medicine that's been proven ineffective is that their expectation of benefit from it actually causes a slight but noticeable positive effect. This is the placebo effect. From there, further expectation develops, an effect is felt again, and a vicious cycle is formed. This is fairly well understood to be the case as to why so many swear by alternative medicine. But the placebo effect is not limited to that realm by any means. The placebo effect is almost certainly felt in cases of religious experience in the same way. Say a person is in pain, they pray and expect the pain to subside. They'll experience the placebo effect in just the same way as someone who used homeopathy or acupuncture for their pain. Likewise, the same vicious cycle can develop, leading to further prayers for healing. The danger comes with dependence. If someone is satisfied by a placebo enough to rely on it alone, or at least to seek actual treatment less, then their utilization of placebo could ultimately harm them. Falling into this danger doesn't take a radical mindset. It just takes overconfidence in one's own judgment of personal experiences and an environment that encourages that. This was all that was required to lead to the deaths of those I mentioned previously. You would be hard-pressed to find a group which better exemplify this practice than the sect ironically called Christian Science. I'm not talking about scientists who happen to be Christian. I'm talking about a distinct religious denomination founded by Mary Baker Eddy in 1879. Christian scientists believe that healing of any ailment, no matter the severity, comes only through prayer and the servitude of God. It's not absolutely required to forsake all modern medicine to be a Christian Scientist, but using spiritual healing alone is strongly encouraged. Just as you'd expect, this approach has one nasty side effect, and that is convincing you that you're all better while your disease continues to kill you. Articles on preventable deaths of children in Christian Science communities have been published continuously for over a century now. Religious sects with similar practices have seen some major publicity in the last few years too. Notably, one group of the Followers of Christ in Idaho has been estimated to have a child mortality rate up to 10 times higher than the surrounding communities. They even have their own cemetery, which is filled with the graves of infants. However horrendous, however cruelly unjust, the deaths of people in religious groups like this are not a product of violence. They are definitely, however, a product of religion. No malice is necessary in the mind of a parent for them to essentially kill their child while following the teachings of Christian Science and the like. They're doing what they think is right for their family. Such a belief system is truly so twisted that it can take the love of a parent for their child and mutate it into actions which lead directly to their child's death. Even more mainstream religious groups accept the notion of religious or spiritual healing to a lesser extent, one which allows for most but not all science-based treatments to be used. I was actually part of one of these groups growing up as an independent fundamental Baptist. While groups that accept more medical science see lower mortality, the exclusion of any science-based treatment in favor of a faith-based one is harmful and sometimes potentially lethal. Faith-based mental health treatments are very commonly preferred over science-based treatments in religious communities in the US. I should know, not only did I grow up in a church that warned against the dangers of mental health and psychiatric care, I also attended a Christian university for counseling psychology, which had to defend itself from Christian criticism regularly. At the beginning of each counseling course, the curriculum stated that the university taught evidence-based techniques, not just spiritual ones. We'd fairly regularly see students drop counseling classes after discovering that the counseling program wasn't just faith-based. The dangers of utilizing only faith-based counseling should be obvious, but if they're not, let me spell it out for you. Mental health issues are legitimate health concerns that can lead to incredible pain, low quality of life, and even death, especially if left untreated by legitimate means. If someone is suffering from depression and suicidal ideation, receiving treatment that isn't evidence-based is essentially letting the illness run its course. That's a potentially deadly mistake. The worst part of it may be that those engaged in faith-based counseling by a religious leader rather than by an actual therapist are likely convinced that they're getting the best treatment possible and see no need to seek treatment elsewhere, even if their current treatment doesn't work. God is probably the best option after all. Of course, religion isn't just potentially harmful in the way that it keeps its adherents from receiving useful medical treatment, it's also potentially harmful in the way that it allows its adherents to do effectively nothing to help others, even when they're trying to. A good example of this phenomenon is encapsulated in the cliched and nauseating phrase, thoughts and prayers. Having grown up religious, I do think that those who pray for others are genuinely trying to help much of the time. If only it actually worked. The danger of prayer comes from its propensity to convince those praying that they're benefiting those they're praying for. When there's a natural disaster or a terrorist attack or one of our loved ones is just very sick, all over social media we see the assurance of everyone's prayers. Now, plenty of people who think their prayers are worth praying also help others in tangible ways like through volunteering or giving money. But undoubtedly, many people are satisfied by just praying because they think that's the greatest help they could ever give anyone. Like tons of other atheist activists have said countless times, if all those people realize their prayers don't work, perhaps we'd see a massive increase in charitable giving and a noticeable decrease in human suffering. One of the most dangerous things a religion can do is pacify you enough that you think you're fixing a major problem when you're actually letting the problem go unchecked. Sometimes taking religious action is actually worse than doing nothing, because at least doing nothing wouldn't keep you convinced that what you're doing is helping. Peaceful religious interpretations don't kill by what they demand you to do. They kill by what they keep you from doing. Thanks for watching. I've been Drew from Genetically Modified Skeptic. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel and check out my Patreon, and I will greatly appreciate that. You can also follow me on Twitter at GMSkeptic. Until next time, everyone, stay skeptical.